Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. All right, and we're live. Now, I am stoked to introduce you to today's guest. I'm calling it right now. He's a social Einstein. He's a marketing wizard. I'm looking forward to learning from him. Business development badass, startup mentor. He's also an investor, founder, CEO of Strike Social, which happens to be the 17th fastest growing company in the United States, everyone. Patrick McKenna, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good,
Thanks
man.
for having me on the show.
Did I leave anything off that intro? How are we doing?
I get kind of embarrassed about stuff like that, but yeah, you're good.
Well, we've had some guests have like, no, I'm just going to clip that and put that on my cell phone. So when I wake up in the morning, it's just Casey going, this guy's amazing, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Casey. I appreciate it.
No worries, man. So the theme for today, right? We really want to get these lessons out. I'm looking forward to learning from you. You know, we're talking marketing, we're talking about social, but also the idea of the advertising and lead gen and how that all ties together. And then a little bit of future marketing, like where's this all going? So with that in mind, let me pick this thing up. It's heavy. I'm going to pass it over to you. This is Thor's hammer. So receive Thor's hammer and smash for me. Yes, there it is. Smash a myth, some bogus strategy you've been hearing or some misconceptions we have in marketing around, what just drives you crazy.
Yeah, I think across all platforms, there tends to be this, we'll find you the customer. Like, Facebook will say, just put your budget in there and let it run.
Yeah, just give us your money.
Yeah. Keep it the same every day. Google will say the same thing. They'll say, hey, we'll do the optimization for you. They don't even get to sound really easy. And if you want to be exceptional at performing, it's not easy. So that's probably the biggest myth going around. And it is sold every single day by the platform owners. So
got it. So let me just sort of break this down. So you're getting on Facebook, you're getting on Google AdWords.
Yep.
You're setting your daily budget.
Yep.
And they're trying to say, don't worry, just put your credit card in, you'll be good. And pick a couple keywords, find the biggest audience you possibly can find, and we'll send that traffic your way. Don't worry, everything's good. And they're just kind of like, just roll with it. Just and you're saying is this is crazy talk.
We'll find you the customer. Once we find the customer, the system will be told that we made a sale for you, and then we'll go find all the people that look like that person for you, and you don't have to do anything. And that's not how it works.
How does it work? What if that's not true? What is true?
Yeah. So what is true is it's a computer, and it's Ads Manager, or it's AdWords, or it's DV360, or it's whatever the platform is calling their advertising solution.
Got it.
And you gotta be really specific about talking to that computer. You need to tell them what audiences you're trying to hit, age groups, device. Now Facebook has gotten better at sort of packaging things together from an audience perspective. But what we see in Facebook a lot is this even budget. So, and they'll tell you that. They'll say, hey, if you're going to spend $5,000 a day, then spend $5,000 a day every day. And we'll go, you know this, Casey, we have a lot of data scientists over here. We'll go in and we'll look at that and we'll be like, hey, look, you're paying 4 times more on Monday than you are on Sunday for the customer. So take your budget and move it from Monday to Sunday and spend less. I'm not saying don't spend anything on Monday, but the data may tell you that that's what you need to do, and you should do it immediately. So that's one, I think a huge misconception in the market right now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like, it makes sense for them. They get that even spend on their side, but is that really serving you? you have the data scientists looking at it and they're telling you no. And it's not like you get a better person Monday than Sunday, unless the data showed that. So in this case, hey, spend the money wisely. And it just kind of helps smash that myth that you got to still look out for, you got to have the data and the knowledge to be able to operate on these platforms. Otherwise you get eaten up. It reminds me of trying to play poker and thinking I'm going to win because I did okay at a friend's table in the neighborhood, and I go to like Foxwoods or something, and I guess if you play a small stakes table, it's slower, so you don't notice how deliberately quickly you're losing your money.
Yeah.
But it's like, I had actually a friend, Sean, who plays poker, and I thought, I could win. And it was probably a problem because half the problem with gambling is you think you can win and then you try to play more. He tells me he wins poker tournaments. He goes, oh yeah, the last 8 hands, you had a good hand, you did X, Y, and Z on all the different steps. The last time you had a bad hand, you did all the X, Y, and Z. And he knows that for every single person at the table and the percentages. And I'm like, shit, I thought I'd be coy and bluff that I had 2 kings. And he's thinking like way beyond me,
Yeah.
So it's like, sometimes we're doing this with AdWords too. We're getting in there like, ooh, I'm going to target this keyword. It's like, there are layers beyond this that other, the pros are actually addressing.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It gets even more granular within AdWords and within let's say you're buying a YouTube advertisement. In those platforms, you really need to tell that computer what you're looking for, all the way down to breaking out every single age group, breaking out every single oh, absolutely. You go bucket in, 18 to 54 males and females in one line, and you say, hey, I want them to have this interest, and here are some keywords, and here's some affinity, and you do that and I mean, just think about it for a second. Like an 18-year-old doesn't have the same, likes as interests as say even a 30-year-old or even maybe a 25-year-old. So when you start bucketing all that stuff together, the data that you get back is going to be bucketed together. So you may even be performing, but at the end of the day, in your report, that CSV file, which is just an Excel spreadsheet that you pull out of AdWords to analyze, you're not going to be able to find what was performing. It's just going to say, hey, here's what your sales were if you're selling something. So, and it goes the same way for awareness campaigns. I mean, you got to be able to understand, like, it was 18-year-olds, UFC on mobile versus, a 35-year-old who's interested in the NFL on his tablet or his desktop. You got to know that stuff so that when you're planning the next campaign, you're starting in a better spot. So on the Facebook side, the pitch is, well, if you keep the budget the same, the system's learning more. And so it's almost like it'll fix Monday. It's not going to fix Monday. Monday's always going to be poorer performing than your Sunday. At least it was for this one company. Right. And for them, you get this diminishing return if you don't go and start pulling those levers in that fashion, heavying up in certain days and even in certain hours. It can get like that. You got to be meticulous. Yeah.
What I hadn't thought of, what you mentioned, it makes sense. It's like a no-brainer that when you get super specific, I guess, and I've heard that, but not everyone knows that. So if you're out there, that's really important. Get specific for the results. But what I also didn't realize was the reporting.
It's all about insights.
The more specific you are with your targeting, the more specific reporting you'll get out the back end. To your point, a big bucket of like millennials with the grandparents, it's going to be all mushy. You're like, this is underperforming. You don't even know if it's performing. Maybe it's killing it with one age group and it's just flat out losing with another, and you have an age group or whatever the group, but you don't know that if you're doing it all together. So
I mean, one of the examples we used to use years ago, when we really started seeing that things might be there might be some trouble with the NFL, is the 18-year-olds and the younger millennial group, they weren't interested in it.
Right.
And so you're asking for that, you got Super Bowl ads coming up, right? You're asking for that audience that's similar to that, 40-year-old plus audience that's interested in the NFL right now.
Right.
You go ask them about the NFL, the type of customer you're looking for is actually MMA and UFC.
Right. Or Red Bull,
or action sports, or Red Bull, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like it's not, and if you don't ask that, you're not going to get that type of customer. So, and it'll all come back in the reports. It's all about getting the insights out, because Casey, that's going to inform everything. If you wanted to go to TV, you know where to go to TV to hit that certain type of demographic. Radio, the same way. If I'm
right.
Am I going to go blast radio for 18-year-olds, or am I going to go to a podcast like you have?
Yeah,
right?
totally.
You talk to them, and they're not listening to music right now. They're listening to podcasts. So you gotta know where the audience is, and if you don't, you're kind of in trouble. And you got to tell the computer
right.
what you want. So
now, I got a sense most people don't even know what they want, or maybe in something else. Why aren't we doing this? We just don't know to do it, or do we just not know the things to tell the computer? What's your sense on that?
Yeah, you know what? There is part of that too. And that's where if you're starting out, you got to be testing, right? And it doesn't take much budget to test and get some sort of statistical significance of where this audience is. And then from there, you're literally going, well, what would this UFC, and I keep saying that, UFC audience, what else are they interested in? Like we just talked about. Is it action sports? Is it technophiles? Is it podcasting? What are those other similar interests and likes and keywords? And you just keep going down and expanding that rabbit hole. Now we have technology that does all that stuff.
Right.
We've mapped with our data scientists a lot of audience based advertising within the auction. And so we can provide that stuff for our customers, so they don't have to go through the exercise you and I are going through.
I was just going to ask you, if I don't have that, how do I get that? I don't know if my ideal customer watches UFC or The Voice, or any of these things. So you're saying like you're able to help out. You have the technology, data scientists. Is that I guess nobody has that until you start testing, and that's how you're figuring it out.
Yeah. And so when we got in there, when we got into these platforms and we started with YouTube, we broke everything out. It was a massive multivariate test strategy for us. And that's challenging, right? Because you've got all these different lines within the platform, 18 to 24 male, interest in, action sports, let's say, mobile, desktop, tablet. That's all one ask. Then you go to female. Then, you know what I mean? And you keep going down the list. And so you'll end up with, let's say, 40 to 100 rows of asks from that computer in AdWords. And I'm speaking specifically about the YouTube side, right? Sure. And then that data that you get back is going to help you with your next campaign. And so what we did in all that planning and all that buying strategy is we put that into our data scientists and try to keep your naming conventions clean, because you're not going to be able to do anything without having a naming convention on the front of that request in a scalable way.
Right.
And we did that, and then we just started crunching all of that data, and we started mapping audiences. What are these people really interested in? And so that's I don't know if that helps. I don't want to get too nerdy on here, but it's it was a
nerds run the world, man, right?
Yeah. And look, I love data. As a marketer, like, it's in the data. It's in the data. And if you just get it out of there, set it up right and get it out of there, you're going to be successful.
Right. But you
Yeah.
got to get it out of there. I mean, this almost, I don't know if this is even another myth to smash, but doing it on your own, like you can't ping a data scientist, I don't even know where would you find one, right? So are you seeing, because things are getting more competitive, you got to be more specific, the bigger brands need to, and just anyone in marketing needs to, enlist a team like yours or whoever. I mean, I'm not trying to even plug you. I'm just saying, like, in general,
Yeah.
you need, like, a team to support you, because if you're trying to do little bidding games, it's like me playing poker back in the day. You
Yeah.
get crushed.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a very expensive, sophisticated machine that took us, 5 years of mountains of data, terabytes and terabytes of data. And that's in AWS.
Nice.
We programmed this box, ourselves, the data scientists did. And we do sell that.
Okay.
We call that our DSaaS solution. And some of the things it'll do is it'll tell you, like another one in Facebook. Here's a myth to smash in Facebook.
Yeah. Smash.
Facebook, what's going on in Facebook is people are sitting in their lookalikes way too much. And what happens when you do that is your cost for advertising goes up.
What's that mean?
Well,
sitting in lookalikes.
So a lookalike is someone in your CRM that purchased from you from Facebook. Or you have a client list of emails that you've uploaded into Facebook, and you're saying, hey, Facebook, these are the people that have bought from me. Go find me other people that look like those.
Okay.
What happens is you sit in an audience, and as you try to scale your budget, your curve line just goes like that. It starts, as you start to scale that budget, it starts to drop. And the reason is because Facebook's run out of the ability to go find more people that look like your customer, because you don't have enough customers anymore.
Right.
And it's just like, you got to give me more information. It's really just asking for more information. And when you start putting in additional audiences in Facebook, you can start to find more efficiencies. And then your curve line kind of starts to go like that instead of falling off a cliff. So, and you start to see these things happen at, say, going from a $5,000 daily budget to a $10,000, and then from a $10,000 to a $25,000.
Sure.
And you start to see this thing go like that, and then you get afraid, and you're like, I'm going to go back down to 10 grand because I was doing okay there on my on my CAC.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, and so you got to grow your business, right? You've got to figure out how to keep that line from getting in that diminishing return, or otherwise you're paying 2-3 times more for a customer.
For the same ones.
Yep.
Or just not scaling. It's going down at that point.
You cannot scale if you sit in that. You're just going to start losing money. And the big boys, like, they can afford to do that. Right? McDonald's can afford to pay for the diminishing return.
Interesting.
But for someone who's trying to, let's say, delivery restaurant, you can't do that.
No. Every dollar matters.
You got to get it in the door. Yeah. So that's how you're going to have to get competitive in these platforms. And
interesting. Sitting in your lookalikes. I love that. Don't sit in your lookalikes, because it's not scalable. You get a curve that looks like a hill instead of a mountain.
That's right. And you'll get frightened, and you'll pull back.
That explains it, because I've had that happen so many times, where you get something that looks successful, you add a little more budget to it, and the volume's not there. Yeah,
you start jamming dollars in there, and you're like, whoa.
Right, you tell the CEO, hey, we got success on this thing. He's like, here's 10 more grand. Like, you spent 5 and it worked.
Right.
10. Go get me more of that.
In there. Well, I could pay for this all day. And then you're like, oh.
Yeah, it starts going down. What happened?
Yeah. Here's your $1 million back.
So to avoid that, then you got to do the research. Tell me about it. What is a data scientist? Because you've said it a couple times today here. It's an important person, obviously a scientist looking at data, but like in the marketing context, what is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. They are programmers, so they do write code,
Huh.
but they're not. How do I put this? They're not engineers either. Technically, meaning they're not going to build you an application that's scalable to the masses that you can pull the data science just out of, and it's going to work. So they'll sit in their models and do the modeling, and then you have to have an engineering staff to go connect to those pipes and have that data science visualize on the other end. Like if you go look at a data scientist and what they've programmed, it looks like, I guess I'm going to date myself here. It would look like you're in DOS, looking
like a hacker script line kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean and all of the data's there, and it's what you're looking for. But if you want to actually go give that to a customer, they're going to be like, can we clean this up a little bit? I need something a little more visually pleasing here. So I don't know if I answered the question. Our data.
What do they do? What are they? I mean, they're coders, and they're coding what? They
usually program in Python and R, and they create a data repository box, and then they literally write algorithms. And so the algorithms will look in our algorithms in the auction. They'll look at the audiences that are available on the platform, including seasonality and all these other metrics, but similar audiences that are there to purchase for your product at the same time. And so it's literally like, okay, I want 18 to 24-year-olds who are interested in action sports, and at the same time, I want this 18 to 24-year-old that's interested in, technophile. And that's my customer, and I got to hit them at this specific time, and I'm going to win that auction more often on, let's say, mobile, right? And so all of those things come into play on that. And
what do they receive, the data scientists? Like, I'm Joe Marketer or Casey Marketer.
Yeah.
I send a request for them, or I'm like, here's customers we already have. Help me figure out more. Is that how it goes, or what's the?
Yeah. So basically they need a lot of data.
Okay.
Right. They need a ton of data, and we were really fortunate in that a lot of times what happens is this is if you're listening to this program and you're starting a marketing company and you have customers and you have data, that's not good enough. You have to have data that's segmented by audience, demo, interest, keyword, all of that stuff. Mobile, tablet, desktop, again, in AdWords. And then you also have to have each one of those lines has to be named in a way that the data scientists can start pivoting those things around and analyze that data across all the other 18 to 24-year-old data that you have, right?
Yes.
And so, and then you start looking at all of the different types of targeting within the platforms themselves, and you got to analyze, where am I winning with these guys? Like what's their true interest and affinity and keyword and topic for my specific brand on this specific day? Like it gets that crazy. And so we use a machine. We built a machine that does all this stuff.
Jeez. So they need lots of data, and it needs to be clean data.
Yes.
Is some sort of preparation that has to happen before you send it over?
You just need that. That's the part that's frustrating. So if you go into AdWords and you download your data and say, I want a data scientist to help me figure out, where I can be more successful.
Right.
It's not going to work.
Wow.
That won't work because it's not, it had to be broken out in the first place.
Right. It's not broken out.
If you're starting now, and your intention is to build a machine that's going to help you, and data scientists that will help you analyze what's going on in these platforms, you got to segment. And when you segment, you just need to put a little naming convention in front of those lines so that they can do their pivoting the way they need to do their pivoting.
Yeah, don't make it some arcane code that someone has to look up. Make it something they can read.
It's just got to be the same every time.
Yeah, right.
And so what you'll see is a lot of agencies will be like running around, especially if they have more than one location. They'll be running around trying to get people to use what they call proper naming conventions. And that becomes a huge hassle.
So it sounds like there's, how many times does it happen? Like more times than not, do people come to you and it's like, okay, well, whatever you did prior is not really usable. Let's restructure everything. And then now let's start the test and collect the data.
Well, we do it. So we run the ads. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah. So we run the ads. So we're in control of that, that process. Good. And then we had to build a little piece of technology that gets everybody to use proper naming conventions to start. Otherwise, you're literally running around the office. You'll have data scientists running around your office all day long, pounding the teams over the head to say, I need you to use a naming convention.
It's like herding cats at that point. That'd be just ridiculous.
It's more work.
Yeah.
It's more work. And so, and it's easy to just go in the platform and write one line and just forget about it, so does that help?
Yeah, that was just really interesting. No, this is really cool. Do you see differences between like the B2C world versus the B2B? I imagine there's less data with B2B. I mean, even the biggest companies don't have as many. It's like organizations instead of consumers, but maybe you have multiple users in an organization. How does that work out?
You're talking about just the difference between B2C advertising and B2B advertising?
Yeah, that's a better way of asking that.
I mean, B2B advertising is very challenging. It is very challenging. You need, honestly, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion.
Sure.
I think you got to try to win a content war on B2B advertising. I mean, I think you need, platforms and writers, and you need to win a content play there.
Right.
You don't necessarily need to do that in B2C advertising. You can go to B2C and you can see what your product costs and what your acquisition costs are for that product by running an ad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
But for B2C, it's so expensive to go find, like, let's say, I remember we were running campaigns for Gorilla Glass, right?
Oh yeah. iPhone glass.
Corning's Gorilla Glass. It's definitely not iPhone glass. This glass doesn't shatter, and it's been out for a long time. Okay. Well, maybe they are using a type of Corning glass, but they're definitely not using Gorilla Glass. So they wanted to hit the like CTOs of
icky
of phone manufacturers. Like, I mean, we're talking about, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it's just small, and they're, so it's, I feel for the B2B guys. Like it costs a lot. Like, we spend a ton of money on salespeople, right. And I would love to be able to just pull a marketing lever really hard and get that return, because I do that every day for my customers, and that's just a lot more fun to do. But in this space, what you got to do is you got to create content. You got to give away tips and insights, kind of like what we're doing right here. Right?
Totally.
Yeah. This is our B2B marketing strategy.
Exactly.
Right? We're going out and we're talking to guys like you and to people who are into advertising, and hopefully, someone hears it and says, hey, you know what? That guy sounds intelligent. It seems like they have some stuff going on. Maybe I want to work with them.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
My thought of this conversation is, damn, there's so much I don't even know. I need to call this guy, right? Like sometimes that's what content marketing does. Is you're like, there's a lot of details here. I've read 3 of the 30. Let's have a call, you know?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Casey. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, and look, I mean, I'm learning stuff every day. This is a big field with a lot of people in it, and you know, you've got your gurus and all that stuff. So
Totally.
So we're all kind of learning from each other all the time.
Talk to me about the future. Talk to me about, you know, the platforms that are hot right now, and then where's this going? Because I think I always say, like, I hate change. I hate change in my pocket. It's annoying, and I also kind of like don't like change in general. No one does, but you know, we're not on MySpace anymore, and
Yeah,
other platforms are changing, and you know, Facebook, you hear stuff, and they're getting their wrist slapped. So what's hot now in terms of, you know, a lot of your customers are seeing success on, and then do you see other platforms emerging? And what do you?
that's a great one to talk about.
Sure.
TikTok is sort of becoming the talk of the new thing for millennials. It was Musically. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Look, I don't use it. I don't know that much about it. I think Tencent is one of their investors, which probably means SoftBank's in there as well.
Huh.
But that one seems to be kind of the next millennial fad, I would say, like Snapchat was when it was starting out.
Huh, the destination for short form mobile videos. You know, I've seen ads for this, I think on Instagram. So I don't know. This is kind of the proverbial when the waiter cards you. I guess that means you're young. So I guess this means I'm young because I'm getting targeted for TikTok, or maybe it's a bad campaign. Maybe you should call TikTok up and be like, did you know how old the guy was that saw your ad? But okay, so this is coming up, huh? And maybe some business for you there.
That one's coming up. You know, to be you know, perfectly honest with you, it came up in a meeting at a large agency. What are you guys doing on TikTok? I haven't had time to go look at if they have an ads platform yet or an auction yet. I think, and don't quote me on this, I think you have to literally call them like you did Snapchat back in the day to place an ad. I don't think they have their auction built yet. So,
but that could be the right time to do it, right? Because, you know, early days of Facebook, they're giving away their ad space.
Yeah, but not for me, right?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I need an auction. Like my data scientists and technology need an auction to go outperform other people who are typing in one line. Got it. So for me, calling a rep for an agency is like they would just do it themselves.
This is the 80s. Like, what? Do I need to fax you over the TPS report? Yeah.
right. Yeah. Jeez. So you know, I'm you know, there's always gonna be something else coming up. You know, I don't know what's gonna happen with the future of this social stuff, to be honest with you. Like, Facebook is a very big company. They have, you know, they have the money to be very competitive with, you know, even the likes of Microsoft and Apple and Google in terms of buying engineering talent. So you got to think that they're going to do well. I just heard their stock was up $18 today. I haven't looked, but you know, this you know, GDPR thing is kind of a big deal. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see how far that comes over here. I got to think that they're going to figure out how to make their ads platform work with that. But this next 2020 election, you know, I know they're working on it. They got to be working on it. Right. If this thing blows up in their face, I feel bad for what's going to happen to Mark on the Hill. I really do.
Well, I don't know though. Half the people on the Hill didn't know what to ask him, right? You saw those interviews where they're like, "But how does Facebook make money?"
Well, I mean, that's
we have ads.
Yeah, and you know what? That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Right. But when you start, like, you know, messing with, the perceived perception is
True.
you can win and lose an election and there can be meddling from a third party.
Yeah.
I was at Microsoft when we went through the antitrust stuff.
Oh, okay.
That was crushing. I mean, that was, it was crushing. I mean, honestly, I think Bill was so fed up at that point that he was just like, I'm out. I'm out. Like, this was exhausting and I'm out. And so just you get people up there that are gunning for you, and I think it's going to wear you out.
Right.
We'll see how Mark handles it, but he needs to be really prepared for this 2020 election.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the last thing that I think we want is regulation in there. And so when he said that, maybe we do need to be regulated, I got really worried.
Oh, geez. I didn't know he said that.
He did.
Right now, 30 people in Facebook were like, don't stop.
He's backpedaled on that, but try and imagine like what that's going to look like when you see the kind of questions that came at him. Like, how do you make money? And then I don't think the government's prepared to try to figure out how to regulate it.
Agreed. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely one of those TBDs right now. Because I was thinking about, how positive it is when hey, get out the vote. The little things pop up on your window to say, go vote. But technically, Facebook would know which way you lean. And if they wanted to, they could show certain people that window and certain people not that window. There's all that power that can come.
Have you looked in? There's a setting in the platform that will tell you who you are.
Oh, really? Download your. Oh, yeah. I haven't done that.
Republican, Independent, Democrat. It'll show you where you are based on what you've clicked on. Or
how do you get? Do you know how you get to that? What's it called?
You know what? That's a good question. I mean, I looked at mine. I'm an independent. It got it right. So, it's in there. It's in there.
You haven't told it. It's already made that guess.
Unless they took it out, it's in there. And it doesn't matter because in the ads platform, they would still be able to do it even if they took it out of your profile.
Right.
But it's actually in your profile, which way you lean politically.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talk about our 3 data scientists. I mean, these guys,
hundreds.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Craziness. Well, here, my next question, because this is all fascinating. I've been learning a lot here. Who are you? How did you go from, doing your thing to 17th fastest growing company ever and, pre-launch? Take us back to like little Patrick or wherever you want to go. But, what kind of important things, shaped your life to the point where you got to where you're getting?
I don't know. I had a lot of I had a few good bosses in my career, and then I had some bosses that I didn't have a lot of respect for.
Sure.
And I sort of tried to take the good and try to get rid of the bad as much as possible to be a good boss. But I was never the guy who wanted to take the wheel. I was the guy who wanted to kind of grumble under his voice about,
really?
I wish he could see what I could see.
Right.
So how did we get here? I was at a company that was in advertising.
Okay.
That was doing some, YouTube advertising. And I saw a big opportunity in video advertising.
Sure.
And they weren't looking at the data the same way, and they weren't storing it. They weren't analyzing it. And I had already done that as a CMO at another company. All we did was measure CACs and returns and clicks and where we were getting from and all that stuff. And so how did I get here? I just left. I just said, you know what? I'm going to go pursue this on my own.
Wow.
And And so how did we get here? Well, we literally, like myself and a co-founder, we were just looking at a blank computer screen trying to make it happen. So
you like grab the fishbowl and you're like, let's do this. Peace. I'm out.
yeah, we did.
Found it.
We did.
Fire.
I didn't have a fishbowl.
Yeah, me either. Could have though, right? Looking back.
Yes, I should have had a fishbowl.
Yeah, regrets. But okay, so you just left and you're like, you saw that opportunity. I mean, sometimes all this is just there's an opportunity staring at you.
Yeah.
Maybe doesn't fit the company you're at, or no one's seeing it, and you're like, God, there's something here. We could help some people out.
Right, and that's what I've learned about the bad boss part. It's not that they're a bad boss. It's just that the company, that's not what the company sees as the opportunity. They're more focused over here. And so, and I want to, zig, right, whatever you want to call it, so I would get really frustrated with that. And I think that's what made me an entrepreneur. I was like, I'm frustrated and I see this thing and I'm tired of writing decks about it and trying to, communicate that to somebody. And then you sort of jump off the deep end. And so that, I think some of that is also, and this is going to sound bad, I think some of that is arrogance. I mean, I had some startups that didn't go so hot, that I had ideas that I thought oh my God, this is going to be huge. And it just kind of like, oh, well, next.
Right. Now, but you had a background even at Microsoft, right? For the audio, video, you've kind of been in and around media, or at least in the marketing and the sales world, right?
For a long time in biz dev. We were at Microsoft. I was on the Windows Media Player team.
Yeah.
That. So there was the Windows Media Player and the Windows Media Encoder, and you would literally have to take a tape and put it into a VCR or a CD, and you would put it in the computer, and you would, I'm going to say a bad word here, rip it, but that would be encoding it for the internet, Right. And so this is like, I'm really dating myself here. This is like Napster days.
Yeah,
and
Napster days.
Kind of stuff. Yeah. And
remember unregulated Napster? That was just like a Wild West. It was great though.
Oh, Napster was, I mean, look, the business model for Napster and what they did was terrible, but that program worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a model. It was just like a thing that they released into the wild.
There was no model, I guess. It was just, hey, I want to rip myself.
Yeah, some invasive fish released into the jungle, eating all the wildlife. Yeah.
So I had a front row seat to, the labels watching CD sales go.
Really?
Like that. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like in boardrooms watching as people are freaking out. And
it was so bad.
And you're in the middle of coding, codecs, or kind of forming what Microsoft's plan was around this. And then you're watching as just, Napster comes in and just blows up the whole model.
I mean, Real Networks was audio video for the internet.
Yeah.
That was our real competitor.
Right.
We thought the internet was going to go that direction, and look, here we are. Yeah. My dad used to say, I really don't understand what you do. And I'm like, Dad, someday you're going to turn your TV on and it's going to be playing in HD. And he said, well, what's wrong with my TV right now?
Right.
So, it was that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And, funny story. You were looking at a 2-inch by 1.5 inch screen on your computer and watching the audio. And I paid for, with some Microsoft bucks, we paid for the demolition of the Kingdom, just the video and audio of that.
Okay.
And so I'm staring at my computer at a 2-inch by 2-inch screen, and the Kingdom's blowing up behind me,
Yeah.
And I look back and I'm like, oh, I missed the whole thing. You know what I mean? I watched it on my computer, a few blocks away.
And they're smashing, and you're watching it sort of a live stream, and tiny.
Yeah. It's like, God, talk about a nerd, right?
Yeah. But the HD thing, I mean, for me, it was football. You're like,
Yeah.
I watch the game. Is that wrong? And then you're like, oh, it's like almost like I'm there. It's wow.
Well, I can't even imagine. Can you imagine what it'd be like turning on a tube television in your house and
Yeah, watching a great.
watching?
I don't even like watching clips on YouTube of the old football games. I mean, call it heresy, but the old games where it's so fuzzy and you're
Yeah.
the Browns win the game, and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. And when
give me that HD.
I call that like levels of happiness, right? Like my
Yeah.
dad was happy because he
Right.
didn't have an alternative.
Totally.
He's
Right.
like, well, what's wrong with my current TV? And I'm like, oh, it's going to be better. Well, it's good enough. No, it's going to be a lot better and things are better. And so anyway, that was a big battle for us. And I forgot what we were talking about, Casey.
Well, we're talking about you, and
We're having such a good time here. Like,
that's what we do. We're not even drinking beers. I mean,
Yeah.
Thursday. You could be that. I mean, that looks like water, but I don't know.
oh, right. Yeah. It's only a 10, it's not the whiskey yet.
Oh, it's
so
5 somewhere, as they say, in Fiji or something.
right.
But
Right.
No, I was just asking about you. I know you were a sales guy as well as a marketer.
Yeah.
You
Sales.
a lot of companies. How, did you just
Biz
go
dev.
into sales first? Like what? You're in school and you're like, let me just try this out. Or before you knew what you were supposed to be doing, how did you sort of just figure that out? You just test.
Well, that's a good point. So I graduated. I went to college thinking I was going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And as I started to get towards my, through my junior year, I started to realize that I really didn't want to do that.
Well, you got lawyer hair. I mean, it's good.
Oh, thanks.
It's good. You got lawyer hair.
Oh,
but
thanks.
Yeah, you didn't want to do the whole read the book and grind out the legal blah blah blah.
Yeah, and it's not like I don't like reading. I just didn't. I think maybe that was Law and Order. Like, remember that?
Dun, dun. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was cool to be a lawyer,
Yeah.
And then you start getting into it, and you're like, "This, I don't think this is going to be that fun for me."
Right.
And so I graduated with an English pre-law major, and then you start to go out to the market, like, what am I going to do? And it's like, well, you end up being a sales guy. That's what happens when you have a liberal
right.
art. If you're not going to continue to pursue your liberal arts degree, you better learn how to sell something. So
yeah, good point.
So that's how I ended up there. And to answer your question about should people do that? I mean, it definitely helped shape me. It helped shape me from a marketing perspective. It helped shape me from a biz dev perspective. So if I'm going full circle here, how did we do it? We looked at the market. We looked at the players in the market, and we looked at what they were offering.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out and said, okay, here's where we can be profitable. And this is the message that we're going to go to market with. And the hot one was, for us, we started talking about transparency in advertising immediately. And so we had companies that were competing with us that were selling views, and we were selling a margin that was transparent. And so the people that were the buyers couldn't see it, and we would just say, look, just trust me, test it. You're buying something for 10 cents, and we're going to bring it in with our margin at 4,
Right.
And so, and they were like in disbelief. They're like, how are you doing that? I'm like, look, it's transparent. I'm going to let you log into our AdWords account or DV360 account, and you can watch us do it. So, yeah. So it was like, there's no secret sauce to this thing. It's just, we know that we're going to be able to do what we're going to do. And then it was just, once we started convincing some people, it just went.
Yeah, and the proof was in the pudding. So, I mean, is that how, you grew this? How long have you been doing Strike? Is it?
So we started programming in like March of 2013. We started selling in late September. we made our first sale by November, and we were just kind of off to the races. It was just growth.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we went international. We opened up, an office in Poland, one in the UK, one in Singapore, one in Manila. Now we're in Japan and Korea and Australia and,
Wow.
and all over. Yeah. Yeah. So
That's amazing. How do you keep track of all that?
well, I wanted to do international business. I really enjoy that cultural part of it. I will say this, and I will caution, people, from a back office standpoint, it's going to cost you a lot more money. You've got, taxes and compliance in all these,
and
yes,
yeah,
foreign exchange, all that stuff, right? A currency fluctuation in Australia can be huge. Now take that over to Thailand or Japan. You'll see
oh man,
you'll see a budget come in, and it'll be 10 million yen, from Japan, and you'll realize that's 10 grand.
You're at 30 trillion baht from Thailand, right?
Right. So I guess the part that gets challenging with that is you're literally working on like a 20-hour schedule, and it's really hard to get out of that, right? I was on the phone this morning with my EMEA vice president, this morning. I'll probably have my head of APAC call me at 8 p.m. Wow. So I get a little break between 6, 7, maybe 8 o'clock, and then I'm back on the phone again, and it can be midnight. So that's the part you got to be prepared for.
Right. And I think from our conversations earlier too, that's what you love doing. It's like we even said hobbies, like this is your hobby. This is your passion. So it's not really a problem to have a call at 8 p.m. because you're kind of digging it the whole time. You're having a good time.
I kind of like, if I don't get a call, I kind of like I start calling.
Yeah, you start calling. That's not what they want. They don't want to get a phone call from you.
What's going on?
Hey, where's the scorecard numbers, man?
What happened today? What are you doing right now? So,
right.
Yeah, I do. I miss it. I if I'm not, working, I'm just not, I'm always wondering about work. So
do you ever unplug? Or are you kind of rocking the Elon Musk type, just in the factory all day kind of thing?
I woke up with my computer in my bed this morning.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Now, be honest, were you spooning it or was it just on the other side?
It was arm's length.
Okay.
First thing I did when I opened my eyes was open the clamshell.
Yep. Open it up.
And realize, oh my God, I have an interview at 9 o'clock. I better get going here.
Right. All these emails, got an interview.
I got a shower.
Yeah. Oh no, he told me he's doing video too.
I got to do my hair.
Yeah, seriously, the attorney hair. Oh, awesome, man. Well, this has been really cool. It's great, inspiration too. Obviously, to learn from you in the data science and in the segmentation, getting to know your buyer, testing them has been really cool. But also to see someone in the zone doing what their passion. I think life is way too short to be doing stuff that you don't love doing.
Oh, I know. And that's so hard too, because it's a financial decision most of the time, right? You're doing something,
you're right.
You want to do something else, but you're getting paid and you got bills and I was fortunate in that I didn't go run out and get married and have kids and buy a house.
Right.
So I did have the opportunity
right away, like what people tell you to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, that's not for everybody. And I'm not saying that, but if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you're not already like sitting on kind of a thing, like a nest egg type thing that allows you to go, because you're going to fail sometimes.
Totally.
You might fail a lot of times, but you're going to learn from every single one of those. And the thing that was always great for me is I could always go back. Like I left Microsoft, went to a startup, and then went back to Microsoft. So, you can always find that paycheck job while you iterate, the next thing. And that becomes harder to do when you've got, mouths to feed. And so
house, all the things.
Yeah, that worked for me. Once you start accumulating things, you're gets tougher. So
there's more risk. Yeah. It's harder to handle the risk. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were times, when we're really working, 22 hours a day, where, my significant other was like, you know what, why don't you just go back to Microsoft during this, in the beginning, because it's like you're flushing your bank account. You're flushing it down you're hopefully not down the toilet, but you're really tapping that thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I remind her of that every time she's,
I could still be at Microsoft right now.
Hey,
instead of balling in 18 different countries.
Could be sitting over there, you're in Japan right now with me. So
yeah. Oh, that is awesome. Well, tell you what, how can people connect with you? You throw out some URLs. We'll put them in the show notes.
Okay.
Strike, yourself, however you'd like to connect with people, LinkedIn, etc.
I think we talked about this, strikesocial.com.
Okay.
We have a Drift bot on there. Nice. I like what Drift is doing a lot. You can reach me there. And then of course I have all the handles, I'm on Twitter, VPAT MCK on Twitter, Patrick McKenna, LinkedIn. I think it still says I live in Los Angeles. I live on both coasts, Reno and Chicago. So
I wouldn't be surprised if you kind of live at 30,000 feet some of these times just to get to all the different places.
I'm about to start a big Asia tour here.
Are you?
Yeah, gearing up for it. Yeah, it'll be Australia, and you got to do both Sydney and Melbourne, and then I fly over to Japan, and then I'll loop through Singapore and out through Manila and then back. So that'll be like a 2.5 week gig. So
do you have a favorite of those destinations? I mean, obviously all the teams are equal, but like any of those locales favorites from like a touristy standpoint or just visiting?
The sad truth is I don't get a lot of time I remember the first time I went to Australia, people were like, how was it? And I'm like, I saw,
this building,
the Sydney Theater as I was driving, down the highway, and I sort of waved to it as I was flying out of town. But I really had a good time in Japan. Just that the culture there is so different than anything else that you're gonna get a taste of. I think I had a 7-hour dinner with a group I just met, which was, it was cool. It was a long dinner, but
that is a long dinner.
Yeah.
Especially you're drinking sake every course.
You're drinking sake and you're drinking whiskey too, and you're eating a lot of different types of food, and I enjoy sushi and fish, and so they're from a societal standpoint, everybody's on the right side of the escalator. Mm-hmm. I'm an American and I'm walking around with my coffee cup. People don't do that there. There's no garbage cans there.
Oh, wow.
They don't eat and walk around. They don't drink and walk around. And no one does it. And we're talking about tens of millions of people. You open up your hotel room window in Japan and you look out and you're like, whoa, I'm not in Canada anymore. So,
I remember the crosswalks.
I was right there.
Don't cross.
Yeah.
Looking around, there's no cars.
I'm gonna probably brutalize this name, but I was right staying at the Shibuya crosswalk where they have, I don't know, I think it's like 200,000 people every hour or whatever cross that crosswalk. I mean, it's crazy.
Shibuya. I see it.
Yeah, wow. You see that? It's amazing. The light turns and they're going this way and that way and cross and then it's boom. And then they're all waiting. You know?
No one goes. Like in New York, you have a momentary blip in traffic. You've got like people flooding the street and doing this and that, dodging traffic.
There's
Japan,
none of that.
not the case. Yeah.
They follow the rules, and it makes their society work. And there's not an inch that you can find that's not a livable space that they've created.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Business or something. It's incredible.
In the culture too, I remember I stayed at the Palace Hotel right across from the Imperial Palace. Went for a jog around the Imperial Palace in the morning. Like, what a pleasure, to do something like that.
Yeah, I saw these guys at that same crosswalk. I saw these guys playing soccer on the roof at night.
Wow.
15, 20 stories in the air, and I was like, yeah, they had lights up and everything. This is so cool. I mean, they know how to maximize their space, and it's orderly. I liked it a lot. But I can't say, that Australia is just different. The people are friendly, and you can take them out and you can have a beer with them, and they're up for a laugh and a good time, and it's different.
I think it's the differences that are appealing too. Singapore also different from Japan, dramatically so, but interesting at the same time.
I think more friendly in Singapore.
Yeah,
frankly.
I mean, it's almost to Thailand, right? So they're really friendly. So
yeah. It's I love Singapore. So I went to Singapore, then I get there a year, and I swear it felt like they had built 3 more 80-story towers. It's like
so crazy.
How did you do that?
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. And there's no traffic there. You can get from the airport down to your hotel in 25 minutes or less.
Right.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place. Yeah.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Well, I don't know if you looked at the time, but time has like flown by. We're a little warp here. We gotta get back to your calls.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for having me on the show. It's been a real pleasure, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to hear about some of the places you've been to, and maybe you can report back and tell us, try out TikTok and let us know how it goes.
Yeah. I need to call them, actually. I got to give them a call.
Give them a buzz.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. And so, thank you. And so for everyone out there listening, if you learned something, and I know you did, because I've got pages of notes over here. If you learned something, share this with someone else. Get it in their hands so that you're the one empowering them, and kind of get the message out, especially around don't do it alone. Don't join that poker tournament with all your chips and not have someone in your corner. Strike Social, check them out as well. And thanks again, Patrick. This has been awesome.
Thanks, Casey. Pleasure being on the show. Really appreciate it. Have a great day, bud.
You too. This has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.